Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer Dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
So, welcome. It's a delight, privilege to be offering myself to you again, my lovely Sangha friends. I'm offering another talk, and the talk itself seems to have written itself. It hasn't caused me a great deal of challenge. I'm really aware that I've been getting caught about whether it's going to be enough, and strangely at the same time, whether there's going to be too much. So I'm dead conscious about maybe it's going to be too long, and I can't ad lib too much, and yeah, so I need to stay on track. So what I'm wanting to share with you tonight is about my relationship with harmony. And I guess the reason I'm wanting to do that is partly due to quite a lot of exploration over the last year about what harmony means to me. Because when I was given the Dharma name by Flint, when I got my Marakasu, the first part of my name, which I think most of you have heard me talk about, is Function Mountain. And the second part is Great Harmony. So hence the what's this harmony thing. I'm really come to terms with the Function Mountain. It's a big part of me, and I think most of you will recognize me in me, and I'm glad for it, because I think as long as it doesn't dominate, actually it's really beneficial, and it's something that I can offer to others. So I've come to a real place of acceptance of my Function Mountain. But the great harmony, I initially when I received that, I experienced it as criticism. He's pointing out an inadequacy in me. And I was really seeing it through my conditioning. It took me a while to realize that it wasn't an attack. And there's a very beautiful way that Josh has helped me to see it. He says it's an entryway to freedom, which I just think is beautiful. And I'm all for that. So I'm really taking that, and it's really helping me to really embrace this as something to grow into. So yeah, I've been exploring this theme of harmony. So I've been thinking a lot about relationship over the past year, and probably before, actually. I think this has been a sort of a real practice edge for me. I'm aware that I have a lot of harmony in my relationships, both personally and professionally. It's my job as a therapist to offer harmonious, safe relationships. And the feedback I get is that I'm pretty good at that. I'm okay in that area. I feel like that is something that I've made really, really, great progress with. I'm really drawn to intimate relationship where there's harmony. It feels like I was thinking about what's it like then when it's harmonious. It's like a sort of an exquisite dance between my feelings, my needs, and the other person's feelings and needs, and the two of us like flow together and potentially lose our separateness. So it's a very fulfilling and nourishing dance between two people. And I've become aware that that I'm choosing to spend more time in these types of relationships. And I experience a lot of this type of relationship with my lovely Sangha friends, many of you. Yeah, I experience this with you. And it's why we moved to Lancaster. So, I was such an important life choice to make. But it's been a lifelong interest in me to understand why harmony can prove such a challenge in our intimate attachment relationships with family and particularly our partners. And through my training as a therapist and through my own exploration, I come to understand lots of reasons why it's so hard. In that we have lots of expectations about many things, including, consistency, comfort, security, support. And there's always so many differences to navigate between the two people involved. There's a lot of conditioning. We have lots of preferences that we tend to cling to. And of course, each of us is pretty self-centered. And then the last thing I was thinking of is that I think we imagine we will change the other person in that intimate relationship. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's often a delusion around these intimate relationships. So, like in summary, we're pretty messy when we come into a relationship. And when there's two of those really messy miracles, as Flint calls us, relationships get even messier. And in some respects, like Josh was saying today, they're a real mystery, and I think the conflict is inevitable in these really significant relationships. And I've been pulling together quite a few sort of strands of Dharma that I have used to develop harmony in my own intimate relationships. And I wanted to share a few of these with you. So one of the threads that I've pulled is from Joko Beck. And she says that we have the illusion that relationships work. They don't. It's in wanting them to work that makes them unsatisfactory. Now, I've worked with quite a lot of clients over the years as a therapist, and so many times have I heard people say, well, it should be easy, right? No, it's a delusion. It's such a delusion that there's not going to be disharmony, that it's not going to be easy. But we're fighting against like a culture and a society and films and songs and so on that breed this idea that it should be easy and it should be harmonious. And like this is where the suffering is, because we have this expectation that it's going to be easy. It's rarely easy. And I've often wondered, why, when we have conflict in these relationships, is it so potent? And I picked up a phrase from Norman Fisher in the Parameters book on patience. And it sort of offers a clue to the potency, because he says that at the bottom of every important conflict is a sense of love having been betrayed. Ouch. It's betrayal is such a potent thing. So Duncan and I have been working on our relationship for over 36 years. Can't believe it, really. And it's still work in progress. We're both really strong people. We're very different in so many ways. We have so many preferences. Our behavior triggers each other, and each of us wants to control. We both think we're right, and both want to be boss. And as Trudy, when I was discussing it with her, said to me, it's like we're both sheepdogs and there's no sheep. We both want to do the herding, and none of us are willing to be a sheep, which I just thought is just, thank you, Trudy. It's a real fun way to look at our predicament, our fog, our fucking opportunity for growth. What a Dharma gate, what a gift, what a gift. And we are never sure of an opportunity for these opportunities for growth. Yeah, so continuing on with what have I used, what have I picked up in this journey? And I've picked up a lot through the Dharma. And one of the things that I think I've been practicing with for a long time is something offered by Flint, which has been really helpful for me, is that this phrase, you can either be right or in relationship. Not both. Holding on to my truth and being right is so expensive. Really is. There's not one truth. One person is not right. It's all bloody subjective. We all see life through our own filters. And I continually remind myself when I get caught. My adult part really wants to be in relationship, but my childlike parts, my more primal parts, they want to protect. They want to fight my corner. They're full at times of self-righteousness. But complaining, blaming, holding on to vexation, as Trudy called it earlier this week, that doesn't bring about change. That's not helpful. What does bring about change is being able to sort of witness my life rather than getting caught up in it. Shifting from sort of my own, emotional reactivity and taking responsibility. Taking care of my triggered child parts and being honest about what's going on for me. This really, really helps. But it requires me to be vulnerable, and it requires me to show where it hurts, where the pain is. I've learned that having the humility as well to own up to when I've fucked up, when I've said something that is unskillful, said something that is unhelpful. It's really important, it's crucial to have the courage to do that. And it's about caring about my impact on Duncan and recognizing what he needs. And that creates trust between us. And it opens up a space between us for connection and for love. I love this quote, actually. I've been trying to find it for a while, that Flint shared. It's by somebody called Rick Warren, about humility and how important humility is. It's not about thinking less of yourself. So it's not about denigrating yourself in any way. It's about the position of the less. It's not about thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And I just love that little twist when you move the word less around in that statement. It's really about, trying to step away from the self-centeredness of in relationship. And I've learned that the best way to open Duncan's heart is by opening my own, having the courage to be vulnerable, being open to potentially that being painful, but it's the catalyst for connection. And yeah, I'm loving the way I'm sort of weaving all these different themes in that there's another thing that Trudy shared on, I think it was on Tuesday, poem by Rosemary Watola Trauma. She said, the invitation is clear. Be ridiculously courageous in love. To open the heart like a lilac in May, knowing the freeze is possible, but opening anyway. That really touches me. It's like opening, even though you know the freeze will potentially come. Another thing that I've picked up from Flint along the way um, is when I'm feeling triggered or vexed, like that word, vexed. You can get it, it's got a bit of energy in it. By something that Duncan has said, something that Duncan has done. Flint says, what's the most generous interpretation of this behavior? Yeah, this is what's his intention? Rather than assuming it's to undermine me, criticize me, and all of that conditioning, what's the most generous interpretation? And this really helps me to step back from assuming the worst. And one of the things that I think I've said this in my last talk about the head student's staff, it still sits at the end of my bed. And each morning it says to me, I am not my conditioning. And that feels like something I avow each day, that I am not my conditioning. And this is something to be aware of and work with during that day. Another thing I've picked up recently actually was from Ryan at the Parameters session. Again, same sort of vein, but I think it's just another lovely little phrase to hold on to. And he was talking about generosity and ethical conduct. And he said, in situations when we're feeling triggered, irritated, ask yourself, what does love look like in this moment? So what in my response, what would love look like in my response in this moment to this situation? I think it's a lovely, helpful phrase. So thank you to Ryan. I must message him and thank him for that. Over the past year, another area which has brought benefit to developing my relationship, our relationship. Duncan has read this talk, by the way, so this is not a big surprise to him. Is that we have both been reading a book recommended by Mary, actually. It's called Us by Terry Royle. And it focuses on turning away from the individualism that our culture seems to perpetuate, that individualistic and separateness. I mean, I don't know whether he's a Buddhist, but it feels very Buddhist, actually, the whole theme around moving towards connection rather than separateness. So he says it's about nurturing the space between. It's not about the me and you, it's about the us. And I think this is I think he uses this phrase, but I think actually Flint uses it too, that it requires a lot of difficult conversations and fierce intimacy. I think that's a Flinty phrase. But a lovely phrase that Terry uses, he says, we have to be willing to engage in heart-to-heart combat. Oof. I think that's really potent. And being able, this is key, being able to move from harmony through disharmony and back into harmony again is crucial, because that's when we get to the healing, and it's the healing that is the most important thing. Another a couples therapist I've listened to a lot, John Gottman, says that, successful couples don't argue less. They just are really good at healing. And I think this is a really, really significant idea. Um, so, um, for this first part of the talk, that's all about harmony between myself and others. So this second part of the talk, which is shorter, um, I've been thinking about harmony within myself and between my parts, um, which I'm really aware, like in many of us, there's like they can pull in opposing directions. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what I've noticed over this past however many months. So after taking on the role of head student last October, I was so fully engaged in so many Sangha activities, including, 2 sets of the single principles, which was a really great thing to do, but it was, it took a lot from me, preparing for the 1-day march retreat and offering the Dharma activity, then the May retreat with all the planning that involves, and then the food ordering and so on, and then doing a Dharma activity. So much work, no small feat. Function Mountain had a bloody field day. It was so many opportunities for it to shine, show itself. And then soon after the May retreat, we came back, we sort of I recognized, oh, it's really important that we get the October retreat in people's diaries. So I was off again, developing the flyer and so on for the October retreat. But I was bloody worn out. And I could feel this resentment in me, which felt really uncomfortable. And it was quite a challenge to embrace that part of myself. So I had this rumbling sense in me that I really didn't want to do Dharma, and I couldn't be asked with stuff, Dharma, so many elements that had felt so precious to me early in the year. I felt like a poor head student. I felt like a reprobate, and I felt shame about that. But it's so good to have good spiritual friends like Karen, like Benji, who has been so supportive. And then I know I talked to Mary about it. And I know I even shared it with the group in a Nothing Missing group in July. And being able to name that and own it and somehow has helped to shift the shame. So then I was able to start to see these feelings as information, and that my system was alerting me to the need to restore balance through allowing myself then to take time over the summer, particularly in the garden and working with nature and being creative and appreciating beauty in my garden. It brought my system back into balance and into harmony. So it's been a real lesson for me about monitoring how my system gets out of balance and harmony. My doing parts that manifest Function Mountain can be all too dominant. And I think a real practice edge for me is giving myself more time and space for my being parts rather than my doing parts. To pause, reflect, appreciate nature and beauty, and experiencing life through my body rather than through my mind. And I love this little phrase that is from Mark Williams, mindfulness guru. He says, we are not human beings. Sorry, we are human beings, not human doings. I thought, oh, it's just, I love that. It's so succinct. We are human beings, not human doings. I've spent so much of my life being a human doing. So, moving on to October and the theme for the retreat. This all does fit together. The title of the retreat is Branching Streams Flow On in the Darkness. In my usual fashion, I brought my mind to this phrase and I was like, what does it mean? I couldn't fathom it. And I was sitting with that phrase all over the summer. It felt like a bloody mystery. And then I spoke to Josh about it and it just all seemed to loosen up. And so I sat with the image and something really shifted. And so I want to actually just share with you the image for the retreat for the Branching Streams theme. Let me see if I can find it. Can everybody see that? So I let my mind play with the image. And I was struck by a sense of flow, an absence of resistance. As the different rivers, I was thinking about how rivers come together and blend. Water from different sources with different characteristics may be losing their identity and separation. And it occurred to me that this is like the flowing together of nourishing relationship. It was like it was transformative when I met this image with a different part of myself. So it's about losing that individuality and separation and being lost and being accepting into the us and the oneness. And the whole, and then the image has taken on a whole new meaning for me. Another aspect of this image that feels strong is how this river flow typically never stops. It's just like life. These fogs, these challenges never cease. Nothing stays the same. There are always situations that will pull us apart. And as Trudy said in the talk recently, a while back, belonging is what we are, but separation is what we do. Sharing now. So it was at that point I thought, where does these words come from? And they come from a 8th century Chinese Zen poem called the Sandakai by Master Sakito. I think that's how you say his name. And I think he was prompted to write this partly because of the separation and the difference that emerged between the different ways of practicing, between the North and the South in Japan. So the whole theme of the Sandakai is, it's about the harmony of difference and equality. These are the words that I've picked up from a description about it. And it's the merging of difference and unity. It was then that I realized, oh my God, this felt like a gift. This is what I've been working with. It's like everything sort of dovetailed together. This is my practice edge, developing harmony within myself and between myself and others. It's where it's at. Every day, waking up and avowing it afresh. It's like it says in the verse of the robe, thus harmonizing all being. So as we move forward into the October retreat, my plan is to offer another set of these 6 single principles. And the theme, I haven't worked out what they will be. We will see what unfolds. But they're all going to be do with this theme of working with difference and developing harmony. And I'm feeling really quite excited about that. No longer the can't be asked place. And I'm looking forward to what will unfold. So, thank you very much for giving me the time to share that. I've really enjoyed sharing that with you. I hope that you've enjoyed it too. And thank you.